Dear staff at Al Jazeera, I want to make this post because I watch a lot of Al Jazeera news and things ruminate on one's mind. You have an effect, don't you? The news that you give has an effect. And I want to start with a compliment, or several compliments. Coming out of Al Jazeera have been an incredible amount of very enlightening films and a lot of hopefulness, as well as showing us some of the really terrible things that are going on in the world in perhaps a truer perspective than we might have got them otherwise. We've heard a lot about Palestine and Gaza and, really the crimes perpetrated by Israel. Usually they get away with much more in the Western media because of their, power and money and so on and so forth. So you've done a lot of good, telling us about the Seven Sisters and the oil cartels and colonialism in Africa and many different things. So many, a lot of Earthrise. I'm going to come back to Earthrise in a minute. And recently, we have deep sympathy, many people, for the imprisonment of Al Jazeera staff. But you've given yourself high standards and you've talked yourself up, in the listening post, talking about, sort of an analysis of how the media works and the messenger and so on and so forth. And you paint yourself as quite, fair in a sense. So I've got to raise a few issues with you. First of all, this is an honest question. Someone who does his best to be honest. Why do you think that Al Jazeera paints Venezuela basically as quite a sort of pariah, quite a corrupt, quite a bad government? And you know the power of the media, and you're constantly giving messages about Venezuela as if it was a really bad government. Now, I don't know enough about geopolitics. The only thing I can think is something to do with oil, and Chavez, used to be on terms with Iran, something like that. I don't know. But the point is, I've got to ask you this. Please, this is a very important question, and the world has a right to know about it. Yeah? Why do you think Chavez did what he did? Did he make a kind of socialist state because he wanted to be greedy? Because he wanted to give money to an elite? Or did he not live quite a humble and sincere life wherein he genuinely wanted to benefit the majority of his population? Surely that is a good and honest and kind and wonderful aim. You say, oh yeah, but there's a lot of problems in Venezuela. Well, yes, there were quite a lot of problems with Chavez, weren't there? Because the CIA and the US government tried to assassinate him. That's a known fact. And the CIA and greedy powers who would watch my video, Message to the People of Venezuela, okay? Enrique Capriles won't be sharing the money out equally, will he? No. That's what usually happens with people in power. And that isn't what happened with Chavez, and that isn't what's happening with Maduro. They may have problems, and I would say that a lot of their problems are due to interference from the United States and people even in Venezuela, but who are filthy rich and want to be filthy richer, colluding with the United States to try and get rid of a really good government that cares for its people. So I'd like you to address that and honestly think about it, and honestly ask your hearts whether it's fair that you would report on that. And I would like the Al Jazeera staff, if they side with the viewpoint, which I think is true, that the Al Jazeera's coverage of Venezuela is certainly an unfair coverage, which is miring their image to the world, and states that are trying their best to look after the people should be guarded in this world of rife materialism and greed and separation of the rich and the poor. So I would like all Al Jazeera staff who agree with me to say, we refuse to continue with you, Al Jazeera, until you change this false policy and do a balanced reporting on Venezuela. Okay, I've started with a compliment to you, and I mean it. A lot of your reporting is good, and you do try to be balanced. Okay, so let's come round to a few other issues. Earthrise is one of the greatest things that Al Jazeera has done, and they should do more about positive news. For example, I think you should have a whole series of reporters basically just going around positive news stories, whether they're new techniques for people to sort of meditate or do nice exercises, or somebody just having a good day or making up a new song or whatever it is, so that if people want to, because I love the modern society is broken down a lot. A lot of us don't have enough friends and community around us. We turn on the computer or the television. So, but it'd be nice for me, I watch too much Al Jazeera news, because at least the reporters have got a friendly face. But you could do some more on that line. But let's get back to Earthrise. So here's a program where positive stories, great, and it's generally things that are taking care of the Earth. I've got to say that doing on Earthrise, putting thorium in there, putting anything about the positivity of nuclear power is a lie. Again, you can watch my video on Fukushima and nuclear power. But I'm not just watch that. Just smell the roses, please. I can't do the whole video again here. But any nuclear power is wrong. It's not green, okay? It's like, I can't go into that whole video here, but that is a lie and a travesty and should not have been put on Earthrise. And you need to ask yourself, presenters of Earthrise and presenters of Al Jazeera, how that got on there. Nuclear power is a travesty. We were told the first generation is safe. You think they came on and said this is really unsafe, but the next generation, no. Each generation they say is safe, it isn't. It isn't. And it's a nuclear conspiracy. If you haven't noticed it, Israel's got nuclear weapons. The watchdog of the world is the USA, the only ones who have dropped them, etc., etc. The arguments are relentless and continuous. Now, if a group of Nigerian schoolgirls can figure out that just with a half a litre of human urine you can put the lights on, I can assure you we don't need nuclear power. But they're a very massive lobby which is creating chaos in planet Earth. Geopolitics, environmentally, and everything. Okay, we don't need Aborigines and uranium. Read the book by Colin Tatz, yeah? Okay, we don't need this mining. Okay, so that's another little example of where Al Jazeera goes wrong. Another report backed GM. What was that about? Step Varson, I'd like to ask you personally, you were talking about one of your reports in Indonesia, and was saying, I can't remember what the thing was, but it was about exactly, but the essence of the truth of the matter was actually what you said was basically, well, it was an untruth, we could say a lie. Basically, the problem of land and development and agriculture in Indonesia is very simple. Number one, the forestry department looks at all the maps of Indonesia, and any forest that isn't under protection is just strip cleared for oil palm and acacia. Tens of thousands of kilometres per year, yeah? And even in our national parks, there's a lot of illegal logging. As far as I'm concerned, West Papua, it should be liberated, of course. Freeport Moran shouldn't run it with the Indonesian government. Sorry to say that respectfully, Indonesian government. But the forestry department is the main problem of land in Indonesia, okay? Secondarily, that basically you said, Steph, that agriculture needed to be further mechanised to get enough food and work the land properly. That's an untruth. It's a lie. The United Nations has said that even the United Nations, has come out and said that small-scale agriculture produces at least 1.25 times that of mass agriculture. And there's a lot of other organisations which say that it's far more than that if it's carefully done. Yeah? And also, small-scale agriculture lets more people work the land. Now, big business and corporations don't like that, and nor do governments who wish the people to be separated from the land. It's like the Native Americans say, we can't eat money. And basically, human beings need urgently to realise that our lives intimately should be symbiotically, that is a mutually beneficial give and take, in reciprocity with our planet Earth, and we could be. When human culture relates to the Earth as if it mattered, it can be beautiful. Life can be beautiful. The air is the air of life. The water is the water of life. The sun is the bringer of life. There is free energy all day, every single day on planet Earth, and we could enjoy it for free and be more healthier if more people got out there, yeah, and connected to nature, not just economic reality and terrorism reality. Sorry, the environment is the greatest issue on planet Earth at the moment. And it's not just a desperate issue, it's a beautiful issue. Yeah, getting out there, canoeing in a river, swimming in it, wandering up the hills, just realising that the wind on your face is a beautiful thing is great. And people doing their own little farming, like they've always done, well, for at least 10,000 years. Yeah, because there's not enough land to hunt and gather for most people. But yeah, nice little bit of agriculture, great. It produces more, stops there being over mechanisation, and don't divert the issue in Indonesia. Yeah, there was quite a bit of land. Most of the oil palm should be given back. There should be a ban on nearly all oil palm products, yeah, and excessive acacia, and of course the existing national parks should be safeguarded better to make sure their loggings and the indigenous rights should be guarded more, yeah. So Al Jazeera, here is just a few little issues off the top of my head. And again, we thank you for your program recently about Egypt and about how, the USA and Israel back things over there and the corruption there. But think about it. Think about what I said about Venezuela, about thorium and earthrise, about land in Indonesia, about being really truthful. Not just saying what your producers tell you to say, maybe, or the backers, because sometimes it's blatantly wrong what you're doing. And you need to have character and judgment to stand up to that. Please, for the sake of future generations, I beg you, I earnestly ask you to do the right thing. Every time. And if you being asked to do the wrong thing, just say, I'm sorry, I have to ask another reporter to do this one, because I won't do it. And then tell the world that that's what you've done. So it doesn't, just the message doesn't come across wrong from someone else. At least enlighten the world. Thank you. Have a great day. Apache Wolf Scout, otherwise known as Barker. Over and out. Have a great day. And thanks for your good program.